Hey podcaster, I'm Tim Wahlberg, your podcast performance coach, with another actionable tip so you can sound like a pro and gain more podcast fans. Today's tip is standing versus sitting while recording your podcast. It's a common question when it comes to recording your podcast. I'll tell you what I do and why I think you should do it in a second, but back in the day, Dr. Johnny Fever and Venus Flytrap, those were radio personalities from the TV sitcom WKRP in Cincinnati from the late 70s and early 80s. Back in that day, most of the radio studios were built for DJs like that, doing their shows sitting down. Personally, I think it was just because it made it easier to smoke and drink on the job. But program directors started hiding chairs on jocks to get them to perform better and focus on their show a little bit more. Then came the studio stand-up console, where most of the controls were at least waist high, if not higher, forcing your jock to stand up while they did their show. And most radio stations are built like this today. And they did it for a very specific reason. Talent performs better standing up. Singers do it for airflow and projection. Others for better blood circulation. Think of a TED Talk or another presenter you may have watched. They're standing up. They're on stage. They're engaged. They're moving around. And haven't you heard yet? Sitting is the new smoking. I stand up when I record. I do it for a lot of reasons. Here's what I sound like when I sit and do my podcast. Hey, it's Tim, your podcast performance coach. And today's topic is all about projecting. So let's get going. I wanted to start with okay, did you hear the difference? All right, a little over the top, but I think my point was made. I think everyone should stand up when recording their podcast, and here's why. You will no doubt be more engaged in your own show, and there is just a better sense of awareness with all that you do when you're standing up. More Italians should be podcasting. I think they'd make great announcers. I too use my hands way more when I'm standing up, and it drastically improves my performance. You can express yourself better with more emotion. Your passion will come shining through. You're passionate about your subject, right? That's why you're doing your podcast, right? Be passionate. Let it shine through. Don't hide it. But without a doubt, I think the number one reason to stand up when you record your podcast is because you'll sound more energized. Have you ever heard when it comes to TV that the camera adds 10 pounds? Well, radio has its own saying. I call it the 10% rule. The airwaves suck 10% of your energy. Your listener can't pick up on the visual cues like they would if you were talking in front of them or presenting on stage or on camera. An eyebrow raise, a smirk, shocked look. When you're presenting your podcast, you have to turn it up just a little bit. Let your ego shine a little bit. Be a performer. I'm not saying be fake or phony. Be authentic, but you have to make up for that 10% loss. Standing up allows you to be a little more animated, to offset that imbalance. It may feel a little awkward at first to perform at 110 or 120%, but your listener won't hear that extra effort because, remember, the airwaves suck 10%. So you'll come off across as even Steven. I suggest you try standing up if you're not already doing it. You will hear a difference in your performance. So stack up some books or boxes, prop up that mic, or get yourself a tripod mic stand that allows you to stand up. Kick your chair aside and hit record. Now, for whatever reason, if you can't stand up for mobility issues or whatever it might be, that's okay. Just remember that 10% rule. Turn up your performance a little bit by 10 or 20% to offset that 10% of suckage from the airwaves. But for probably most of you, you can stand up for 30 or 40 minutes. You've done it before. It won't kill you, but sitting apparently will. And I hope that's just the tip you need. I'm Tim Walberg. I deliver actionable podcast performance tips. Subscribe to my podcast and let's make your podcast sound better. Remember, these are 5-minute podcasts. Let's start making your podcast better each time you hit record. Find out more about me and my coaching at podcastperformancecoach.com. See you.